handful.
I'm a pro at it.
That's good right here. Good morning, and thank you for coming out. We're here this morning to talk about the constitutional pipeline. It's funny how the beautiful names they give these pipelines. I remember I lived right up in the town of Maine back in the early 2000s when they started building the Millennium Pipeline. And they didn't tell anybody what it was about. They didn't tell anybody what it was for. They didn't tell us that the landmen were coming to town to try to build farmers and poor landowners out of the fees they should have gotten for leases. And in fact, we never invited any of them to come to our state when our rules said that they couldn't do high volume hydraulic hydrofracking. And now they want to push this new constitutional pipeline upon us. It's just another way to get a foot in the door to try to say we have this infrastructure, and now the next step is high volume hydrofracking. And we're asking people to be very cognizant of what's going on. This pipeline is taking a gas from, first of all, it's Williams and Cabot. Cabot, I think you all know, has a really great reputation for gas drilling. And they're doing things, they don't do things the right way. Basically, it's a partnership between Williams and Cabot. And my friend Craig will talk about what all the millions of dollars they paid for, hundreds of millions of dollars they paid for the pipeline down there and some of the issues with it. But basically, this pipeline is of no value to most people. They want to take it by eminent domain. They want to take people's property. They want to put this 120-mile pipeline through pristine lands that will affect wildlife. They want to do all these things in the name of fracking. And so we're here today, all those people have been fighting fracking, to make people understand that they have a real say in this process. There's a hearing up in Oneonta coming up in a couple days, or tomorrow, right?
Wednesday. And I'll give details.
On Wednesday, and we want to educate people on how they can fight this pipeline, how it's just another way to try to push fracking into New York State. And so I hope that everybody will pay close attention to this, as close as attention they pay to fracking, because this is just another step in the door. One thing, Craig, I think we'll talk about too is, eminent domain is only supposed to be used for projects that really protect our nation, protect its ability to produce gas and oil in this kind of context. The fact is that this pipeline is connecting to one to Albany that connects to one in Boston to the harbor. So if this gas, we all know, is not generating any real revenues in this country, where do you think it's going to go? Eminent domain is not supposed to be used for that reason. And so we're here for many reasons today, but one is to educate, to get people to understand and fight this pipeline as vigorously as possible. And I'd like to introduce Isaac Zilberman-Gorn, who's been really doing so much good work to not only fight fracking, but also now the pipeline, and I'd like to introduce Isaac.
Thank you. I'm really proud to call Mayor Matt Ryan, the mayor of the city of Binghamton, my elected representative. We're here today. We have really three, or I guess four points we want to hit. Eminent domain, that's Matt was mentioning a little bit about this. We have some really knowledgeable folks on the subject behind me. How the effects of pipelines and compressor stations on public health, and how this infrastructure build-out might lead to fracking in the future. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that first, pipelines are federally regulated by an agency called FERC. There's a public hearing Wednesday in Oneonta, October 24th, 7 p.m. at the Foothills Theater, 24 Market Street over in Oneonta. So I'm happy to introduce Rebecca Roeder, who lives in Brooklyn Township in an active shale field. She is surrounded by 4 wells within 3,000 feet of her house and under a mile from the Williams Central Compressor Station, the slated beginning of the Constitution Pipeline. So here's Rebecca.
Hi. My state, Pennsylvania, treats gas field residents as necessary sacrifices to corporations extracting shale gas from under our feet. Pennsylvania has a physician gag order relating doctors to discussing and reporting shale health products meeting the indications of their treatment. As a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, a doctor developed an important design to replace an NDA. So we now have an NDA running at the Department of Health. The new Pennsylvania road salt is Marcellus brine, laced with fracking chemicals and radioactive heavy metals from deep geologic formations. Pennsylvania wants to use eminent domain to force private property owners to allow drilling on their property. Pennsylvania's property rights, water, air, health, environment are being sacrificed along with safety to a corporate development plan extracting natural gas from our backyards, schoolyards, college campuses, and our state forests. Our lives and safety are marginalized, written off as a social cost, collateral damage, in the corporate rush to turn our yards and pastures into gas fields to maximize private profits. We have had a corporate takeover of our state by the natural gas industry. Williams now wants eminent domain to build a constitutional pipeline to transport sustenance shale gas through your state to the East Coast market. He's argued that he was to export the gas from the East Coast overseas to global markets by taking away U.S. citizens' property rights by eminent domain, not only to extract gas, but also to make a pipeline through New York. Pipelines that will start to populated areas of federal Class 1. These country pipelines are particularly dangerous as there are no routine inspections and no emergency plans for human safety in case of accidents or explosions. Pipeline in Class 1 areas have the lowest safety coefficient, thus the thinnest quality pipe federally allowed for industry use. Pipeline operators are not required to report pipeline-related fatalities in Class 1 areas. If you live in the country around the pipeline, you are just invisible collateral damage. There are no regulations requiring the protection of your life and property. Your safety and your life are totally in the hands of the pipeline operator, a private for-profit corporation. There are mathematical formulas for figuring out the potential impact ratings, PIR, and the high consequence area, HCA, of the pipeline. The formulas use the type of gas, thickness of pipe, pressure of the gas, diameter of the pipe to figure out the PIR, the toast zone, and the HCA that will damage the property and human life. Federal agencies have studied determining PIR and HCA that reference survivability, blistering, thermal radiation exposure, whether a human runs or stands still in the blast zone. There is no requirement for a landowner signing a right-of-way agreement to be informed about Class 1 high consequence area, potential impact radius, if by virtue of signing a right-of-way, their family might be in an HCA, a PIR, a thermal radiation zone, a blistering zone. They are not required to be informed that they are going to be risking their family's safety and lives. New York, don't become the next Pennsylvania, a corporate sacrifice zone. Pipelines like the Constitution and fracking in New York. Keeping corporate pipelines out of New York means keeping fracking out of New York. Remember Kevin Costner's film, The Field of Dreams, where they will come, well, don't build this, and they can't come. Don't let the Constitution pipeline open the door for a corporate takeover of your state by the gas industry as is happening in mine.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's Rebecca Roeder, everybody. And I just want to mention, as I actually learned a lot. I work with Citizen Action. I'm an environmental organizer. And I study fracking I spend more hours of my day studying it than I like to. And as I've been fact-checking and learning more and more, the pipeline situation particularly keeps getting more and more horrifying. Someone who knows better than few is Craig Stevens, he's a resident of Silver Lake Township in PA. He began his study of the oil and gas industry when he found out a 10-year lease had been forced on his property without his permission. He also had the 30-mile pipeline from New York to PA planned to go across his property along with ensuing local seismic testing. Craig is here today to discuss what he has observed and personally experienced since the oil and gas industry has come to his community. Thank you, Craig.
Hello everybody, Craig Stevens, Silver Lake Township, Pennsylvania. I'm a 6th-generation property owner on my dad's side in Pennsylvania. I'm a very proud 5th-generation New Yorker. My mom must live in New York. I'm here because the company, Williams, decided to call this the Constitution Pipeline. I'm talking to the CEO of Williams right now. You should have read it a few times before you use that name. I'm here exercising my First Amendment rights, but if you didn't read it, the Fifth Amendment clearly states that they will not deprive us of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. What that means is the Constitution Pipeline is a federal pipeline. It's called FERC that oversees it. That's who we're going to the meeting tomorrow night for, to influence them not to allow them to do this. They're going to take the land by eminent domain. When they tried it in Pennsylvania on my own property, they called it Certificate of Public Convenience. It's the same thing. Just like they call forced pooling here is now compulsory integration. It's the same thing. It's theft of private and personal property without just compensation. My problem is, I'm a conservative from California, that's where I was born and raised, and I'm a Tea Party conservative. How any person that considers themselves conservatives, Republicans, or Tea Party can look at any aspect of this drilling industry, including pipelines, taking property without compensation, destroying property without paying for the damage. I don't understand, but I seem to be a lone voice standing on the conservative side to say, let's go back to the center, let's stop the madness, because this pipeline is a 30-inch pipeline, 30 inches in diameter. When the federal government gives them permission, they can run that pipeline with no setbacks from your home. They can drill right underneath the foundation of your home to install this pipeline. They will do it once they get eminent domain from the federal government. They'll put it wherever the easiest and most convenient place to put it. They'll give a few dollars a foot. I'll just give an example on my own property. They tried to give us $5 per foot and a lifetime easement is what they wanted, a lifetime. It ended up being a 40-year easement for $115 a foot. And at the time they said $5 in lifetime, they were trying to use eminent domain. It failed in Pennsylvania. Why? To take something by eminent domain, you have to have a local public use. Not only is this Constitution Pipeline starting in my home state of Pennsylvania, where I'm living now, going about 19 miles to the border, then going over 100 miles to Albany. But it's not going to put a bit of the gas in the communities in Pennsylvania or central or upstate New York. It's going to two places, Long Island Sound, and it's going to go to Boston Harbor. Whether it feeds the people in Boston or New York City is not the issue. It's going to go overseas sooner or later. But I'm more concerned with why do New York City and Boston need to use my home community and steal land along the New York State to transport that gas and take it. We feel like a third world extraction colony now. And I'm telling you right now, this is to all the drillers, all the companies that are here, all the people working in the industry. You're not going to destroy my land and my ancestral property. You're not going to ruin my mother's home state by taking this land, filling with pipelines and gas wells, and then extract it, take it to the big cities, let them find their own way to get energy, and then send it overseas. You cannot take by the Constitution if you're going to send the gas overseas. Stop this pipeline now, use no eminent domain, and I'm here, I will stand right in front with my friends here, right across the border, and make sure nobody gets in to do this. Thank you.
All right, and next I'm happy to introduce Vera Scroggins, also a resident of Silver Lake Township in Susquehanna County, PA. She has been studying and documenting industry since 2008, and here she is.
I'd like to say that I've been watching this industry since 2008. I live in Susquehanna County, and I'm part of a citizens group that's keeping records, videotapes, photographs, journals, about what is happening to us, how we are being exploited and assaulted by an industry that has carte blanche to do whatever it wants. I live in Silver Lake Township, and right now, next to me, 3,000 feet away, is a fracking site. They are fracking for the past week. I have to walk in my backyard and smell chemicals. I smell chemicals that I've never smelled before in my whole life, and I was raised in an urban area, and I smelled chemicals then, but these I do not even recognize. And I understand it's hydrochloric acid being dumped in with the sand and the water into the drilling holes of this site, the McGeorge site on Mahoney Road. I called up the owner and I told him, look what's happening on your land. You're assaulting our air, and our water is at risk. All of our water wells have been tested. It's surrounding this site, this past summer where they drilled 3 wells. And now there will be pipelines coming from that site, and they're crisscrossing our whole county. You can come, and I do citizen tours every single week. And I show people what is happening. You can see all the pipelines, one after another. It's a complete web of pipelines. And now they want to put this monstrosity called the Constitution Pipeline, which is a disgrace to even use that name, in Brooklyn Township. And they're putting a 30-inch pipeline next to a huge compressor station, which I was just on a couple of days ago, and I videotaped. And you can see the tapes on YouTube. But it's a 54-acre site where several pipelines are going to be put into it. And they'll be going north and south, taking our gas out of the county. And it's going up towards Albany for this Constitution Pipeline, which many New Yorkers, thankfully many New Yorkers are fighting. It's a part of a group called Stop the Constitution Pipeline. And they need to stop it. Because if you stop the pipelines, you can't get the gas out. You can't get it out of this county, out of the state of New York into the harbors. And the main thing is to stop the liquefaction of this gas so it will be for export. And this is their main goal because they can make 4 to 5 times the price with exporting this gas. And we need to do whatever we can to stop the liquefaction plants from being built. And so that all of this gas can go to Asia and Europe. And we will be a colony just to extract it for the use of Asia and Europe and for the corporations to make their billions off of our backs and off of our health. I have to smell chemicals. My grandchildren are smelling chemicals right now. My children are smelling chemicals so that the corporations can make billions of dollars. This is not right. This is not American. This is not patriotic. This needs to stop.
That's very Scroggins. And next, this is going to transition nicely. I'm happy to introduce Peter Hudeberg. I know how to pronounce him. He's the founder of Plymouth Friends of Clean Water in Chenango County. He's going to speak to health effects of compressor stations and pipelines.
There's a strong indication that when these pipelines, this Constitution pipeline gets built, eventually gas fields will be developed along the route. We already know that factories along the way, industries want the gas. Leather stocking pipeline would like to get itself built in the area and presumably tie into the Constitution pipeline. So all of these tie-ins, all these branches off the pipeline will require more and more compressor stations. Already Millennium is requiring two new compressor stations that they're pushing to establish. The Pennsylvania Alliance for Clean Water and Air has compiled over 500 gas industry incidents of air and water pollution and other types of accidents with many serious health effects and some deaths reported for people and animals. Wikipedia lists over 500 pipeline spills, leaks, and explosions since the year 2000 in the U.S. That's over 16 per year on average. So it's basically not a safe proposition to be living close to a pipeline. Kathy and John Sayers of Morgan County, Ohio, lost their home to a Tennessee gas pipeline explosion. A 30-inch, 120-mile interstate pipeline is going to lead to gas field development. And that will, of course, lead to serious exposure for more, not just people from Pennsylvania. Mary Mack of Clearville, Pennsylvania, for instance, lives near the Spectra Energy underground storage field and compressor station and has arsenic and volatile organic chemicals in her water. She suffered from partial paralysis in her legs due to lesions in her spinal cord. Wayne and Angel Smith of Bedford County, Pennsylvania, live close to the same Spectra Energy facilities. Their air and water are also polluted with arsenic. They've lost a number of their animals, including a 600-pound steer, 3 calves, a cow, 3 dogs, 12 chickens, and 4 cats. This is not a safe industry. Warren and Rebecca Sheffield and family of Ditch, Texas, have suffered multiple chemical sensitivities and vertigo. Their children are easily winded and experience vomiting, hives, itchy skin, nosebleeds, seizures, since their air was polluted by a compressor station. Susan Hara of Morrisania Mesa, Colorado, suffers nosebleeds, itching eyes, face, coughing, and leg nerve inflammation that hinders her ability to walk since a compressor station and gas wells were put in close to her house. Pam Judy of Carmichael, Pennsylvania, suffers headaches, fatigue, dizziness, nausea, nosebleeds, and her blood tests show exposure to benzene and other chemicals since the compressor station was built 780 feet from her house. We need protection from state and federal government, not exploitation. That's why we need to go to this FERC hearing in Oneonta tomorrow night. Thank you.
So there are a couple of things I want to mention real quick before we bring up our final speaker, Kim Michaels. The FERC hearing is in Oneonta Wednesday night, October 24th, 7 p.m. at the Foothills Theater at 24 Market Street in Oneonta. We're really trying to encourage people to attend. There's a rally outside at 6. The hearing starts at 7. The space seats 750 people. And another fantastic resource for information on pipelines is stopthepipeline.org. No spaces again. Stopthepipeline.org. And finally, I'm happy to introduce Kim Michaels, a resident of Coventry, who has been researching the gas industry for the past 3 years.
Actually, I just wanted to say, give some reasons why New Yorkers should attend the scoping hearing in Oneonta on the Constitution Pipeline. Upstate New Yorkers have been deliberately kept in the dark concerning the many pipelines proposed to transport natural gas through and from our towns. The Constitution Pipeline and the Constitution and Empty are two of the largest. The impacts, dangers, and exorbitant costs of these pipelines and fracking they will induce have been kept quiet. The use of eminent domain. As such, few are capable of making informed decisions or even realize the gravity of their situation. Many, such as renters or people who live in the villages or cities, don't realize that they too have much at risk. Our public officials and news agencies have a moral obligation to keep the public informed. Little or no mention of the radiation, heavy metals, and toxic gases such as hydrogen sulfide associated with natural gas. EPA documents show that the radioactivity in oil and gas products have been known since the 1930s, and this radioactive content is used to find the deposits. Uranium, thorium, radium, and their decay products, some of which can last millions of years, and whose radioactivity can increase over time. Radioactive scales build up on pipe and equipment up to 4 inches thick and can have concentrations as high as 400,000 PCI per gram. Compressor stations, dehydrators, separators, etc. will be needed to support these pipelines. VOCs measured in the tons will be released into the air. Leaking pipelines and explosions are a common problem. Handling and disposal of these natural gas pipelines are a radiological health hazard. The disposal of fuel cuttings and brine laden with heavy metals and radioactive waste is an insurmountable problem. Exposure risks from disposal sites for the general population within a 50-mile radius include contamination of food, water, and inhalation due to contamination of well and river water, as well as downwind exposure of dust particles. Hydrogen sulfide gas, aside from being highly corrosive, is also highly toxic. Health effects are numerous and in high concentrations can cause death in a single breath. Biocides, which are expensive and toxic to the environment, have been used to control bacterial reactions that produce this gas within a gas well. Now, bacteria and phages, otherwise known as viruses, are also being used as a cheaper method of controlling this problem. The propagation of massive quantities of bacteria and viruses and their ability to evolve rapidly are a major cause for concern in terms of both the ecology and disease. The use of nanotechnology is also a concern. Particles so small that they can cross the blood-brain barrier. The icing on the cake, we're being asked to pay for a lot of the costs associated with gas rolling up pipelines. The Natural Gas Infrastructure Act, along with amendments, is pending. This would allow the use of public funds in the form of state grants to pay half the cost of eligible pipelines by the county industrial development agencies, who would then become the owners of that section of pipeline. you have to wonder if they would also become responsible for the liabilities as well. I just think it's appalling that our health is being put at risk for generations to come. The people are not aware of how dangerous this is. And the Department of Energy has been doing a study, and the Atomic Energy Commission, they've been doing studies on this since back in the 40s, human radiation studies. The effects are well known to our government. And I think it's just really appalling that in addition to subjecting us to these known health effects, they're also letting in a bunch of unknowns with the nanotechnology and the use of bacteria, and asking us to pay for a lump sum of the cost. Thank you.
All right, and our dear Mayor, Matt Ryan, wanted to say a few more words, so I'm happy to oblige him.
I just want everybody to think about this article. It's in the Times on Sunday. It's called After the Boom in Natural Gas. It doesn't have exactly to do with the pipeline, but it really does. Because if you read this article, you'll understand what a shell game is going on, how this whole industry is being financed, and how they don't know how it's all going to end up. And it could end up in disaster. It could end up in actual financial disaster for, except of course the banks will get their money. You know, their conclusion, it'll be a gut punch to investors, a big profit for bankers, and maybe for a little while lower cost gas for consumers. But you know, really the industry is not worth the consequences. And there's so much money. Even T-Bone Pickens now is telling people, why are you drilling wells? Why are you doing any of this? This is crazy. He was the guy out telling us that this was the right thing to do. And now this industry is in such financial shambles that they're playing this shell game that will bring, we don't know what it will bring, but it's pretty scary. And what do you think will happen if all these pipelines and all this infrastructure is built, and then they run out of money? They've made all these promises to regulate, and then there's no money being made, so they walk away. It's typical in these types of industries. They'll walk away, and all the injuries that are had from this industry will never. There'll be no money to pay or nobody to sue. So that's another thing to consider.
And so that wraps us up. We have a very knowledgeable cast of characters behind me, and they're happy to give individual interviews. I'm happy to if you want me, but I'm really not the best one here. I'm happy to if you want me to. Thank you everyone for making it out on this rather miserable day. Thanks. And thank you to these guys too. This is a phenomenally well-informed and knowledgeable group. I've been honored to learn some from them over the past just 48 hours, and we're going to continue to fight.
Can we maybe stand in line for like 30 seconds so we can get some shots?
Sure. Steve footage. What do you want to say? This is yeah.
We're all
Trying to squeeze something bigger than saying.
We're doing a picture.
Toxic it is.
doing something good.
Yeah.
Sorry we haven't had great visuals here. This got put together rather quickly.
10 more seconds.
Okay. Thank you. Everyone, thank you.
Did I give you one of these?
I got one that was fluorescent green. Is it the same one?
It's what?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Hey,
Oh, hey.
you,
No
information maven, you?
Nothing, just your
Some more
statement.
information for you.
This is good. Well,
We should get together and have some.
the fun of really new developments. Just keep us up to date. Well, I don't work nights, so Erica will probably. Yeah.
When do you have to do that?
I can't wait for
I don't work nights.
It's 10 o'clock, so we're going to be running a little late today.
I do, actually. Hopefully.
Is your station going to cover the hearing tomorrow night?
You said it's in Oneonta.
It's in Oneonta.
I'm not sure if we're headed out there. Oh, I might be out of cards here, actually.
I need the spelling of your name.
Oh, nope, there's one left.
Thank you.
Actually, do you have an extra?
That was my last one,
Okay.
actually. Sorry.
You know, I'll email it to you.
You know what?
Give me
I'm
your-
really bad at checking my email,
Okay,
so if
here.
you,
Do you want to just?
well, here,
you know
I
what?
can just write it down.
I need to make sure I have your name spelled correctly.
I think I put it on the.
But just-
It's Rebecca Roder, R-O-T-E-R.
T-E-R?
Yes.
And where in Pennsylvania are you from?
Brooklyn, Township.
Like spelled like the New York City of Brooklyn?
Yep.
And Rebecca like that, are you
Yes. And I live like a mile down the road from the building.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, you keep us updated.
I will.
Right. Yeah, we didn't know. So Erica would do. Absolutely. Yeah, CC, Erica and me, whoever, just as long as it gets to one of us, the newsroom knows. If it's a night thing, that's more Erica, I'm here today. I will make them aware as long as like the sky doesn't fall, we'll be there. Yeah, it's a little far, so yeah.